So, you thought the news could flow without me. Welcome everybody to another episode of Fantasy News. I am your disheveled goblin host Daniel Green, and today, I am so excited to bring you the spring merch drop, aka the request drop. From today until April 9th, patrons will have early access with a discount code to the entire merch collection. From Monday until the 17th, it will be available to all. And the challenge remains from last time. Every patron who orders between now and Monday will be getting a personalized thank you from myself, and then the first 300 orders from then will, yes, be getting personalized thank yous from moi. And this line has my personal favorite design we've ever put out. That is the Struggler hoodie. We're celebrating that we've caught up on the journey! Available in light and dark. But we're also mixing things up here with the inclusion of a goblin-themed notebook and a fantasy flowing coffee mug. Wanna get murdered by a clown? This is the brightest way to do it. Genuinely, this is so bright it starts like reflecting its color back onto me. Available in season-appropriate colors. But we've heard you and understand that not everyone is ready for a limited drop whenever they occur. So we have decided to keep a basic goblin tee here on the channel permanently as well. But I've saved Kayla's pride for last. That was really good actually, but I just f***ed up by not... But I've saved Kayla's favorite, the pride and joy, for last. The bespoke tee. Sticking with our minimalist theme, Kayla has decided to let you all announce to the world that you are indeed a disheveled goblin with a signature patch stitched in on the back, crafting tales, consuming stories. Though there will only be 200 of these printed, so once they go, they're gone. Thank you everyone for making the last drop so wildly successful, and thank you Kayla for putting so much effort into not only the designs themselves, but all this promotional material you're seeing as well. She is launching a clothing line here on the channel. Back into the news! But the first story of the day is going to involve the Rings of Power show over at Amazon. But Daniel, that's been off for a while. I know, you doofus, but we have just learned that only 37% of its starting audience stayed for the final episode. Recently here on the channel, we've been talking about how The Last of Us's viewership just kept growing and growing and growing each episode until it started actually topping numbers from House of the Dragon. Goddamn. Consider this just the opposite of that, hitting a low that I really didn't see coming. I thought enough people would just be curious enough to stick around to the end, but it didn't even keep 50%. And the implications for this I find really interesting from a business perspective. Obviously, as a fantasy fan, and I mean no offense to anyone who did enjoy Rings of Power, it just kind of stinks to see a franchise I enjoy so much get an entry that felt so sterile when it came to emotion. There were plenty of visuals that were but at the end of the day, the emotional impact of even the largest points of the season just kind of rang hollow, and I personally believe that is largely why so few people stuck around to the end. It just failed to land many Cenobite-type hooks into its audience. I realized while editing this, I probably made a whole bunch of people picture a Hellraiser Lord of the Rings crossover, and I'm not sorry. And it seems the pressure on season 2 is not only the uphill battle of trying to retain or gain back an audience that's leaving in droves, but somehow justifying the future investment the show demands. If I had to guess, I would say we are still guaranteed at least 3 seasons, though we could start seeing the budget even pulled back for the show, and what this means in terms of the overall story they claim to have had planned out from when they first bought the actual rights, I have no idea. It just seems like something foundationally, in my opinion, needs to be redone to better understand the emotional weight that typically comes along with Tolkien's writing. In my personal experience, Tolkien fans don't respond super well to stories that feel like they're just relying on, remember this? Isn't this pretty? And instead they're looking for realizations of Tolkien's ideas and the whys behind the concepts he so beautifully created. You have to justify why you're exploring this angle of Tolkien's writing, and I feel like that's where Rings of Power is struggling the most. Beyond, of course, just money. But from there, we are going to jump on over into tour cover reveal news, because Somewhere in the Deep by Tanvi Burwa has been shown to us with a synopsis that reads, 17-year-old Crescent Dune is buried under the weight of her dead parents' debt and the ruinous legacy they left behind. The only way she can earn enough money to escape her unforgiving island is by battling monstrous creatures in an underground fighting pit. After a fight goes terribly wrong, she's banned from the pits. Now, hopeless, she's offered a deal. In exchange for the erasure of her debts, she must join and protect a hunting party for a rescue mission deep within the mining caves beneath her island. But in bookstore news, it seems that Book Depository will officially be closing down April 26th, though don't worry if you've recently placed an order on the website, they will continue fulfilling those orders until June 22nd. Now, I actually retweeted the story with a sad reaction, and I had some people pushing back on that, like, this is Amazon, why would you be sad to see this shut down? Well, because I don't want to see things shut down, I want to see them split up. And here, I'm just seeing people lose jobs, and unfortunately a place that people know to go to get books no longer operate. It's not a positive to see things shut down. It's not the outcome I'm looking for, and I'd rather just see competition arise. Put it dramatically, I do not look for death, I look for revolution. Death just comes with it. Now, in the first A Song of Ice and Fire piece of news of the day, it seems that HBO is eyeing a Game of Thrones prequel that will be focusing on Aegon's conquest. This begs the question for me, how strong is the A Song of Ice and Fire franchise now that House of the Dragon has largely been met with praise? It is only just one season of television, and I know there's a lot of people out there who still have a very sour taste in their mouth from the ending of Game of Thrones, but I could see if House of the Dragons is successful, how, yes, if you're in charge of the IP, doing a Game of Thrones prequel could be the way to go, especially with something as dramatic and epic as Aegon's conquests. But where's the line? Where's the line for you in particular? Do you not want to see Aegon's conquest? Is that already too far? Or could you do with a couple more A Song of Ice and Fire seasons of television as long as they are appropriately spaced out? It's not a right or wrong answer anywhere, but there's a lot of stuff for A Song of Ice and Fire in the works, and it just seems like, you know, stop. But speaking of HBO working on prequels, it also seems that Welcome to Derry, the It prequel, is moving forward and has announced some of its casting. Taylor Page, Chris Chalk, and Jovan Adepo, who you might know from The Leftovers, with the director of the first and second It movies returning to the franchise to actually helm this show as well. I'm of two minds with this. I am partially excited to see what you could do with the concept of Pennywise, especially in a situation where we know he can't be defeated. That makes almost his presence within this series all the more terrifying. And Derry itself, if you read It the book, even though it was broken into two movies, they weren't able to include everything in those two movies. There's still lore to pull from, especially if they're able to open it up in a similar fashion we've seen Mike Flanagan wanting to express for his Dark Tower series, where other Stephen King stories have been added to the mythos of Derry itself, and we could see that incorporated as well. It depends how much they want to just keep this directly tied into It. I could be getting ahead of myself there, but no, this isn't an IP that I personally, this is going to change for everyone, feel like has been milked to death yet. It's a very milky episode. We also got a full-length trailer for Apple TV Plus's upcoming Silo, which didn't grab me necessarily narratively. I've seen the whole, this is our safe haven, we don't know the outside world, oh, I want to see the outside world concept done many a times, but it did win me over through the casting, which is exquisite, and the overall set design and atmosphere they're managing to create in this trailer. It is a trailer, so proceed with caution, but I'm gonna check this out for sure. I just hope, and don't spoil this for me in the comments, you little rascals, that Silo's able to do something with that premise that is genuinely different and surprising. And in what news? Jedi Survivor's download size has been increased from 130 gigabytes to 155. Holy God. I understand that is not the largest of all time by any measure, but for a massive Star Wars game that's going to be relying on people who aren't just typical gamers who stay up to date with the latest hardware all the time, this I could see being a deal breaker for some people who maybe don't have, of course, the latest console, because this is only coming out on the latest consoles, or have a PC that maybe doesn't have that much storage, is reliant on much slower internet. For those of you outside the United States, I was recently in a part of the country where it took me 6 hours to download something that was 4 gigabytes. So if this is going to be 150, you're fucked. fucked. I've never tried to maintain that I'm the most up-to-date or in the know for video game commentary, but as someone who's an outsider looking in, that size just Jesus Christ. But moving on into the quickie news, we've also seen a release date announced for Jason Momoa's Minecraft movie, and that will be April 4th of 2025. Yes, this is the most story of the day. Either this is going to be a very self-aware parody that is hilarious, and I can see that being pulled off. Jason Momoa can do comedy. Or it's gonna be awful. Or what if it's like a supernatural suspense horror? What if this is like a Robert Edgar's Lighthouse tonal movie? I just keep punching trees and getting wood, surviving the days and resisting the nights when the deaths come. Back to back to back, we have also gotten announcements for Shrek 5, Moana live action, and of course the new Hogwarts series coming over at HBO. All of which have garnered a wide variety of reactions from the internet, and here are my full thoughts on that. So in the last week, we have gotten news about Spider-Man, Shrek, Hogwarts, franchise after franchise after franchise. Yes, for the most part, a lot of people are starting to have stronger and stronger negative reactions to franchises that just keep having more and more entries. Something like a Harry Potter Hogwarts adaptation, of course, gets more backlash because not only J.K. Rowling bigoted stuff, she said, but it feels unnecessary. And same thing with the Moana news. It's just absolutely, there is no continued need to tell a story. The story is told and done. It's not aged to the point where it feels like another era's telling. It's not even trying to necessarily target nostalgia anymore, which you could argue, I guess, with the Harry Potter one. Like, Moana was so recent, you can't be nostalgic about it yet. And so it's just straight up like, you'll fucking pay for this. But consumers are also smart enough on the individual level to distinguish between an IP that, yes, is being milked still, but milked in a way that could be creatively interesting versus just putting The Rock in live action for something because box office. And in the final story of the day, we're going to be talking about how Monster Energy sucks. Not just in my opinion as a drink, but it seems allegedly in their practices to small indie developers, because they have launched a lawsuit in regards to using the generic as hell word Monster. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Is the developer trying to title themselves Monster and therefore there could actually be some competition? Absolutely not. Well, then is it a game that's just called Monster? No, it's Glowstick Entertainment, which is releasing a game titled Dark Deception: Monsters and Mortals. So it's the fact that the title contains the word monster. One of the developers took to Twitter saying, "It is well known that @Monster Energy is a notorious trademark troll. Unfortunately, they're at it again. For a company that likes to target their drinks at gamers, they also like to try and bully and bankrupt game studios with lengthy high-dollar litigation. Monster Energy's lawyers are coming after us right now because Monster Mortals has the word monsters in it. They claim that our game is confusingly similar to their energy drink. Yep, that's really their claim. Rather than roll over, I'm going to fight them in court. I'll be sharing everything I've received from Monster Energy to give other game developers a look at their tactics in case they ever want to put the word monsters in their game title, and have to deal with Monster Energy as a result. They went after Ubisoft previously too. Monster Energy is a bully that is owned by Coca-Cola. Do not support a bully company buying their energy drink. If nothing else, I hope they eventually learn that going after game studios is not in their best interest." I will say, this is just one side of it, but oh my god, dude. There seems to be a lot of validation for what this developer is claiming due to the fact that yes, this is not the first time Monster has come after a game for a title with just monster in it, having, as that developer said, gone after Ubisoft for gods and monsters. I am going to preface this by saying I am not a lawyer. This is just my opinion, but there is absolutely no way this is even remotely comparable to like a Apple v. Apple situation that happened with Apple Records and Apple the tech company. This isn't another company. This isn't even another company naming a product Monster that is edible. This is another company in a different industry having the word monster in their title, and one of them was even plural. this has no way to actually be successful in court, and I believe Ubisoft only capitulated because they didn't want to go to court against Monster and pay the gargantuan legal fees that would be involved. And of course, Monster wouldn't even care because of who their parent company is. Daddy Coca-Cola got deep pockets. But this has just been your latest episode of Fantasy News. Like and subscribe if you have not already, and join the Patreon if you'd like early access to the spring merch drop with a discount code, or wait till Monday when it publicly will be available for everyone. Have a good one, y'all. Bye! And of course, I'd like to record a special shout out to my latest high-tier patrons: Grace Boyer, Snowy, Zachary Lee, Shelby B, Tyler Krager, Thor Munn, Hannah, and Valentina Frossen.